recognize the importance of not just access to parliamentary information, but elements of accessibility to members and to the House. And so the release of the Open Parliament Index is very timely and very relevant to the conversation that's ongoing today. Allow me to echo Franklin's comments in terms of the progress that's been made as we release this second OPI. As mentioned earlier, the first report did focus on West Africa, and so it's gratifying to see that the East and the South has also joined the fray, and we are looking forward to not just seeing how the results reflect on the transparency and accountability of parliaments from across the region, but also how the different indicators either vary or are similar from across the continents. As has been indicated before, this is not just another exercise in futility. It's not a report that we generate to put in our shelves, but it's a report that we are generating so that we can see how, as parliamentary monitoring organizations working in this area, we can use this information to not just enhance our citizen engagement with parliaments, but it's also to see how we can improve the work that we are doing. I'm hoping that from the report, we will also be able to identify, how the uptake of technology, as we saw from the conference in South Africa the week before last, has enhanced the uptake of parliamentary information, and how as PMOs and as citizens and as media, we can continue to invest in technology to bridge this gap between people and their parliaments. Allow me also to say that from the initial just observations of the results, it's very clear that a lot of work has been done by both PMO, civil society organizations, but by parliaments themselves. It's clear that access to information has improved. It's clear that whereas there are challenges, some progress has been made. And as we have identified in the recent past, a lot of the challenges that we are seeing, especially with the young people, lots of it is going back, caused by the lack of trust between citizens and their leadership. A lot of that is going back to parliament, perhaps cognizant of the important role that parliament plays, especially around budgets, especially around legislation that has an impact on people's lives. And so looking at what has happened in Nepal, in Indonesia, and even in our own country, Kenya, in the past, we recognize how important it is for parliaments and civil society organizations to continue bridging this gap. So from my desk, it's to really congratulate the team at the APMON, the African Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, through our secretariat PNA. It's to thank also the research teams from across the 3 regions that have put this together. And I hope that, especially because I've noticed we are joined by quite a number of journalists from across the continent, we hope that beyond the performance or beyond the ranking, we'll be able to internalize and interpret the data more so that this can continue informing our work. So I wish us a fantastic event, and I look forward to the results. And also I conclude by wishing everybody a happy International Day on Access to Information. Let's keep engaging, let's keep communicating, let's keep informing, and let's keep bridging the gap between citizens and our parliament. So with those few remarks, I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Merci. Merci, Madame Caroline, pour votre message d'introduction.
Thank you very much. We want to hear a solidarity message. We are honored to have among us Mr. Christopher O'Connor, who is the CEO of the team within National Democracy Network. He has played a key role in the development of this index, and he promotes democratic governance as well as parliamentary openness in Africa. Mr. Okena will now give us a solidarity message on behalf of this organization. Mr. Okena, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for the introduction, and Franklin and Carolyn for your remarks. I think that you did a really good job explaining the importance of parliaments across Africa, their role in democracy, and why initiatives like Open Parliament Index, this second iteration of it, are so important. As Cynthia said, I'm Christopher O'Connor. I'm a senior program manager with the Africa team at the National Endowment for Democracy, and I am very excited to attend the Open Parliament Index launch this afternoon. And I'd really like to offer a warm word of thanks to Parliamentary Network Africa for hosting this event. We at the National Endowment for Democracy believe separation of power in government is a foundational characteristic of democracy, and a strong functioning and democratic legislative body really is a key avenue for citizens to assert influence, assert really a say in what their governments do. Unfortunately, across the world, and including in many African countries, legislatures are weak and fail to represent their citizens to the full extent that they should be. And I would just state that we are deeply grateful at the National Endowment for Democracy for Parliamentary Network Africa and for all those that they collaborate with that are seeking to really address this critical challenge and making the legislative branch of government, these parliaments across Africa, more functioning, more responsive, more representative, and more democratic in advancing the goals of African citizens across the board. So with that said, I will turn it back to Cynthia, and really looking forward to seeing the outcomes of this index and hearing the conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okena, for this message. We want to continue, and we will now talk about a high note, which is the presentation of the second edition of the Africa Open Parliament Index. This presentation will be ensured by Mr. Sami Ubang, which is the Director of Parliamentary Network Africa, and who is the Secretary of APMAN. Sami has played a key role in parliamentary openness as well as civil participation in Africa. Sami, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I hope that everybody can hear me right. Cynthia, please prompt me just to get indication that I can be heard. Okay. So let me also add my voice in thanking you all for making the time to join us today for the official release of the Africa Open Parliament Index, second edition. Thank you very much to Dr. Franklin Odro, my very own Caroline Gaiter, and Chris O'Connor for all the amazing remarks that helps to put things in place and set things in motion for today's conversation. My responsibility today is simple, but also one that is of great importance, especially as I am mandated to explain the processes that the index had gone through to all of you who have gathered here, including members of parliament, including staff of various parliaments, including leadership of various parliaments on our continent, members of the press, members from civil society. We do not take for granted at all that you were able to join us, make time to join us for today's conversation. And in setting the tone for the conversation, I just want to start by providing a bit of background to the Africa Open Parliament Index, what informed it, why we started it, where we are, before we even move into the nuanced details of who performed, what was the performance of the various, countries that were assessed. So as we are all aware, and as has been one of the important topics that agitates our mind, the state of trust in public institutions, including parliaments in the world, in Africa also, have been problematic. Citizens no longer trust our state institutions, our public institutions, as much as they should be trusting. There is a lot of call for greater transparency, accountability, and citizens' participation in the work of Parliament. And these clarion calls, once we are getting them, leaves us to be concerned. However, while people are calling on the necessary changes to be done, better information from Parliament, greater accountability from Parliament, we don't see much changes, or we didn't used to see much changes happening. Of the 33 countries that we assess for this index, 70% of these countries already have access to information laws in place. And as we are already aware, the member countries for the Open Government Partnership, OGP, as countries that are promoting issues around openness in governance, has well over 20%, more than 1/5 of the member countries coming from Africa. So with a lot of access to information laws in place, with many countries signing on to the Open Government Partnership, we ask ourselves, why do we still have so much opacity in governance? Why are citizens not trusting the process? And so the Open Parliament Index, OPI, is actually our own response, on how do we, as civil society parliamentary monitoring organizations, through the umbrella body of APMON, how do we move away from the mere rhetorics to some more substantive, material, research document that shows where each parliament is, what is working for each parliament so far as parliamentary openness is concerned, what is not working, and how we can be able to cause the necessary changes and reforms that needs to happen. So this is our own response with a theory of change that if we are able to, once in every 2 years, publish the Africa Open Parliament Index, which gets to show where each parliament is and also propose remedies for some of the things that needs to be done right, then over a few years, we would have parliaments changing what needs to be changed so far as parliamentary transparency, accountability, and citizens' participation is concerned. So in 2023, the first index was released, for those who may not be aware. That first index was measuring the level of openness in the various parliaments in 13 African countries or West African countries as of the close of 2022. This particular one being released is the status of openness in 30 African countries after the close of 2024. And so when at the close of a particular year, which was the year of assessment, we release it in the new year, as it were. It is a data-driven instrument which is developed to essentially help us measure and analyze how open African parliaments are. It's to be released once every 2 years, so you should expect in 2 years' time the next Africa Open Parliament Index. And Dr. Dro had said this time around we're hoping that we'll be able to onboard the Central Africa and also Northern Africa, as the resource constraints only allowed us to do for West, East, and Southern Africa. And